Elliot is dead to me. Our partnership is over.
I told you to walk away from this.
I don't trust you.
You should have listened to me. What we started is over.
This is my revolution. I am the architect.
I came here to talk about our options.
There's something inside me that can't let go of what we started.
Hey guys, Pete here. This is going to be my Mr. Robot Season 3 Episode 4 trailer breakdown. Some cool stuff in this, and one of the things that stands out right away is the fact that we see a lot of the characters, and the voiceover is broken down between all of the main characters, so it looks like we're going to be seeing a lot of different stuff happening in the upcoming episode. There is a simple synopsis out there, and it goes like this. Dom has a close call. Elliot chases himself with Darlene on the lookout. The complete voiceover is, as I mentioned, split up between a lot of the major players here. It starts out with Tyrell. We hear him say, "Elliot is dead to me. Our partnership is over." Then Elliot says, "I told you to walk away from this." Darlene has a sequence. First she says, "I don't trust you." That goes into her saying, "You should have listened to me." And then she says, "What we started is over." So it does make sense that those could all be one conversation with Elliot, say, but the way that it's presented, I didn't feel that way when I first watched it. So we'll have to see when it comes out. After that, Mr. Robot says, "This is my revolution. I am the architect." Angela adds, "I came here to talk about our options." And then it finishes up with Elliot saying, "There's something inside of me that can't let go of what we started." Visually, nothing stands out to make this trailer seem much different than any of the other ones we usually see from Mr. Robot. There's a lot of quick cuts with some things that you wouldn't notice if you didn't slow it down or watch it several times. The first thing we see is Tyrell sitting behind a terminal. He appears to be reading or looking at something. He sort of gets a reaction there, but there's nothing that we can tell. We're hearing the voiceover as this goes on. And it's him saying that their relationship is over, which doesn't fit with anything that we expect to happen going forward after we just learned about Tyrell's unending dedication to Elliot in the last episode. My guess is that this would be right after he shot him, obviously, and therefore he thinks that there's no way that it'll ever be repaired. It could be something else. You know, I browsed the Reddit thread earlier whenever I was first looking for the trailer to get a hold of it and everything else, and there's a lot of talk about Tyrell and his feelings for Elliot. That seems to be something that's coming to the forefront now, especially since we saw how that all went down in the arcade. There's a lot of discussion about who he actually gets along better with, the Elliot personality or the Mr. Robot personality. And there's actually a bit to think about there. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole in the trailer breakdown necessarily, because I think we'll get more to go off of when this episode actually drops. But yeah, there is quite a bit to think about prior to him finding out from Angela what's actually going on. So it's not that big of a deal. I mean, yeah, he should have been confused about what was happening in the switching of personalities initially. But as far as we know, I mean, he was gone. Elliot was locked up. They came back together. He shot Elliot. And as Elliot's recovering, before he wakes back up, before they are reintroduced, Angela explains to him what happened, why he's like that, why he tried to stop him after he told him to shoot him if he tried to stop him. So I'm not sure if there's anything that's really deep there, but it's an interesting part of the voiceover, that's for sure. I mean, it stands out as like, what the hell is he talking about? We just watched an entire episode where we saw how devoted he actually is. The next short sequence is Elliot. We see him from below. He's sort of looking around suspiciously and throwing something in a trash can. We've seen him throw things in trash cans before. It was usually the hardware, his disk drives that he destroyed, and then he went out into his neighborhood and sort of sneakily dumped them in random places. There could be more going on here. The synopsis said that Elliot chases himself, and this is the scene that stood out to me the most as being related to that line, but I couldn't tell you more about what's going on. It's just, he looks paranoid, he's dumping something, and at the same time the voiceover is saying, I told you to walk away from this. My guess is that has to do with Darlene, that it's him and Darlene talking, but it could apply to basically anyone. We may see a resurgence in the storyline of him wanting to separate Angela from the situation. He didn't want her involved in the past, and I could see that coming up again, although as viewers we know that she's way more involved than he understands, at least at last we knew. There's a quick shot of Elliot on the security cam that the last episode before the flashback ended with. This is the FBI, Dom, and her new partner watching as he enters the building that the safe house is in. This is really just a sort of re-showing the same thing. There's nothing new that I noticed in this when looking at it closer. We have another shot of Dom sitting behind the computer. She's thinking, she knows that she has to figure out something if Elliot's in the building. It looks to be the same as the end of that episode as far as I can tell. We see her partner there as well with a look on his face that is, what's going on? Why is this guy here? After that, we see Darlene sipping a beverage at a bar. Looks to be an adult beverage from what I can tell. This part is for the voiceover where she says, I don't trust you. Is she talking to Mr. Robot? Since we found out that she also can tell the difference. Or is she just talking to regular old Elliot? Or is she talking to the FBI? I mean, this shot is in a bar talking to Dom, but I'm not sure the voiceover is directly related to that interaction. And we do see Dom in the next frame where she's there, and yeah, all we can tell for sure is that Darlene and Dom are meeting at the bar. There is a shot of Elliot and Darlene on the street. He's got his work shirt on, his trunk club special there, and nothing really seems out of place from what I can tell from looking at this, zoomed in and all that kind of stuff. There is someone walking down the street, but it could just be anybody in New York City. The whole background is blurred out for the most part, so there's nothing. It looks like they're focused on each other and they're having a conversation, and that's what this is all about. Could be related to the voiceover, of course. Then we see Darlene returning the photo to its place on Elliot's mantle there. When Mr. Robot confronted her for compromising them in the previous episode, we saw that she was looking at that photo. This appears to be in daytime, like at a different time. It wasn't in the middle of the night like the last time, but there's not much else to glean from this. She may have taken the photo away before and she may be returning it. If you remember in season 1, when Elliot looked at this photo, at that point, it was just him and his mother. That was the period of time when he didn't remember that Darlene was his sister or didn't know who Mr. Robot was. When we see the photo now, all 4 of the family members are there. That may tie in with what I was mentioning in my recap and review of episode 3, where I said, that part of time where Elliot didn't remember Darlene may be a lot more important. We know he had stress going on. We know he was doing morphine. Those are all reasons that could play into his delicate situation, and that might be why he didn't remember them. But there could have been something else before that we still don't know about. And of course, we know for sure that when it's revealed to him that Darlene's his sister, she says, "Did you forget again?" So this could be something that's been a long repeating cycle throughout his lifetime. There's a little part of Mr. Robot here where we see that things are distorted around him. It's not the same effect exactly that we saw last season when they were sort of glitching back and forth. But it's almost like, it looks like reality is sort of blurring in and out. I don't know how to better describe it, but this could be a battle for control of who's talking to whoever this is involving right here. I mean, that makes the most sense to me. It could also, involve some sort of deterioration in Elliot. But either way, it seems like Mr. Robot is not 100% in control in this short little sequence here. Got a shot of Tyrell from the back sitting at a laptop. Nothing stands out as being important in this shot. It cuts to him and Irving, and we see a little bit more of why that's going to be important. Like, see, the last episode is going to be important. We learn Tyrell is definitely kind of off his rocker. I mean, he is insane. That's what Mr. Robot likes about him. He's the right kind of crazy, you know what I mean? So Irving has proved himself so far to be a very level-headed, manipulative character. And to me, it looks like the groundwork he laid in that hideout is going to put him in the situation where he'll be able to guide where Tyrell actually goes and what Tyrell actually prioritizes. There was some tension, obviously, because he was stuck in the house. But considering what happened after he left there, Irving is definitely in the driver's seat when it comes to him. I mean, Tyrell can't go out and function in society. He has to stay hidden. So, yeah, we see what that's all about when we see this bit here. It's another shot of Irving sitting on a couch, and I imagine it's the same conversation. I can't really say that there's a reason to think it's not that conversation. Then when Mr. Robot's voiceover is going, we hear him saying that he's the architect, that it's his operation. We have a shot of him strangling Tyrell against the wall. It looks like the same wall that Irving's sitting in front of. It's the same place. This could be the thing that happens that relates to why Tyrell said their partnership was over. But it's really a shot about Mr. Robot trying to maintain control, trying to move stage 2 forward, and for whatever reason, giving Tyrell a little choke reminder that he's the boss. There's a quick glimpse of a peephole where we see Mr. Robot through there. It's a nice looking little visual thing, but no other details to go off of there at all. Over at E Corp, we see Elliot in his cubicle. The way the shot is set up, it looks almost like he's doing something that he doesn't want Angela to see. He looks a little bit startled and like he's trying to kind of cover up whatever he was doing there. We see her dressed in her white suit looking like, I don't know. I mean, I mentioned this before. Angela makes a transition into white, and we see her mostly in white after a period of time, whereas we always see Elliot with the black hoodie, and it was, there's an obvious comparison to Elliot's methods being black hat and hers being white hat. But we've come a long way since season 1 and where their motivations were. So it just reminded me when I saw this, it's like, what is Angela really doing? We're finding more and more out about it. She's mostly hell-bent on revenge. But White Rose has some kind of serious control over her, so her voiceover kind of stands out in saying, I came here to talk about our options because frankly we don't know who she's talking to when she says that. The trailer cuts to Darlene moving through the tent city kind of thing that we saw in earlier trailers. We see Angela deliver her line. It's not 100% where she's at. It cuts back to a scene that we've seen from previous trailers of Darlene and Elliot at his apartment. In the trailers, this was tied with a voiceover, which I'm going to paraphrase, in that they were trying to figure out a way to stop stage 2. No additional context is added here. See Darlene in that same getup entering the train station with a nice little eCoin billboard there in the background. And then we get a wider view of what I think is the same thing that we saw with Angela earlier. And I say I think because it doesn't 100% look the same behind her in what you can see in this shot. Here we're back with Tyrell. This is where we saw him. This is the same area where we saw him talking to Irving. And so, does she come to talk to Tyrell about what their options were? If so, in this scene, he's slamming his hands against the table in a fit of anger. So I don't know what that will turn out to be, but she's definitely talking to Tyrell here. Another shot of Elliot and Darlene together, which makes me kind of excited. I kind of like whenever they have scenes together, honestly. They're entering his apartment again. And then we get this teaser thing that we had seen quite a bit before season 3 started of the agents coming in, guns drawn, and a man with a fsociety mask putting his hands up behind his head. I still haven't heard any conclusively compelling ideas about who this is with this mask on. The hair looks like it's, kind of combed back, like longer and sort of greased back. It could just be a random. The teaser it was in was sort of like, you know, you can't catch us all or something, to paraphrase, because I don't remember exactly. But it gave you the hint, I think, that at least what I took away from it was it gave you the hint that there was a lot of people out there, unconnected type people, that were doing things in the name of fsociety. And it ends with that. Like I said before, the last part of the voiceover was Elliot saying there's something inside me that can't let go of what we started. That sounds like Mr. Robot to me. It could be something else. It could be part of Elliot himself. But I think that I've rambled on about this long enough at this point, so I will end the video and tell you I want to hear what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. You can follow me on Twitter. That's where I'm most active, but I also keep an Instagram and Facebook account that I, try to keep posts going on whenever new videos happen. I would say this looks faster. This episode looks fast. Like, it looks like a lot of things are going to happen, but you can't really tell from the trailer. I mean, they're all fast. So interesting to me that all the people are talking in the voiceover. It's a good sign when we see so many different characters involved. I think there will be a lot of movement. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.